Okay, what I thought I'd do today was just show you some of the tools that I use for knotting. Okay, and the first two tools are these two little things. Your fingers. And basically, when it really boils down to it, it's all you need are your fingers and possibly something to poke through. So, oh, and another thing, those. Because without those I can't see what I'm doing anymore. So those are my two main items, and then beyond that what I'll do is I'll show you some of the knotting tools that I use when creating my work. As you can see, I have got my tools here in a tool roll. A lot of people keep their tools in a ditty bag. I am in the process of making myself a ditty bag for my tools. But one problem with many ditty bags is that when you make them, a lot of them are just a canvas bottom as such, and therefore some of your tools with the spikes on will just go straight through the canvas, and within a short period of time your ditty bag could be ruined. And so therefore I'm making one with a wooden base so that my tools can sit in there and I don't have to worry about putting cork on the end or anything like that, and they won't rip through the bottom of the bag itself. Okay, I think what I'll do is I'll start from left to right. Oh no, I'll start in my pocket. Okay, so the first tool that I always carry with me, because you never know when you're going to need it, or if you find a piece of rope that you want to cut. And I often go out and I look for old pieces of rope, because old pieces of rope actually do make lovely decorative rope work samples. And also with a bit of age and history behind it, it's sometimes nice where you've made something, you can turn around and say, well, that came off the sailing boat so and so, or whatever, yeah? And so what I've got here is I've got my knife. I wouldn't say it's actually the best knife in the world. It's probably a pretty, or one of the prettiest knives in the world, but it's certainly not the best knife in the world. Only because it doesn't get a sharper blade or sharper edge as my opinel knife here, which I've got here, and this one just gets a razor sharp blade on it. And so therefore this is my go-to knife when I'm doing delicate cutting work. If, say for example, I've made myself a decorative key ring or a cat of nine tails, something like that, and I want to get right in close and cut out any threads or cords, I use this one because it gets right in there and it's so sharp it just cuts through like butter. So these are the two knives I use. This one is the better one, but this is my everyday carry knife, simply because I think it just looks good. I like showing off, posing as they say. Okay, so that's my two knives. And the other thing about the opinel knife is the fact that by turning this here you can actually lock it into place. So that's the opinel knife. And it can also be locked again to prevent it from opening as such. So the next tool that I've got is this one here. Oh, just squeeze it out a bit. And this is my sewing awl. It hasn't got a needle in at the moment because I broke the needle when I was making my last ditty bag, which was a leather ditty bag. But basically a needle goes in the end of this, and it's a particular way of sewing. And so, to be honest, yes, it's a good tool. I've used it twice, possibly 3 times when doing sewing. Not a great fan of sewing, and so therefore it certainly isn't used all the time. So that's my sewing awl. Next one we go along is I have got a steel Marlinspike with a wooden handle. I think this was once used for the carpet trade. It is slightly strange in its construction. It did have a bigger handle, but I took it to a workshop and I got them to take it down so it fitted comfortably in my hand. It's not originally a knotting tool as far as I know. It's got like a ridge on here for some strange reason, where I've actually dressed it with a Turk's head. But it's still, I find it sometimes useful when I'm working with bigger rope to push my way through the different cords on that bigger rope. So that's that one. The next one we come along to, now this is possibly one of my favourite tools. This is my stainless steel, brass and wood fid as such. And the thing about this particular one is it does have a triangular end to it. I'm not sure you can see that on there. It's got a very fine point on it, and it's got flats on it which form a triangle at the end of the actual fid itself. This fid was made by a guy in the States called PJ, and he's an ex, as they'd say in American, submariner or submariner. But certainly I got in contact with him and said, could you possibly make me some tools? He said yes, of course at a price. But he made this beautiful specimen here, and I've got a couple of others that I'll show you as I go through along as well. And this one is just beautiful. It fits so comfortably in my hand, and the wonderful thing about it is where it's got such a fine point, it just digs straight in underneath a thread, and you can lift it to pull it up tight. I would say the only downside with it is if you're working with something like this 3mm paracord or a standard paracord, sometimes if you're digging down it will catch between the cord like so, and you start pulling threads up instead of the whole cord itself. So that is one downside with using this, but for fine intricate work, 3-strand cord, etc., I find this one a very useful tool to use. So that's that one. We then go along here. I then have some side cutters here. I think they're called side cutters. Anyway, they're cutters, and basically I use these to get in deep into a knot. So if, say for example, I want to cut into this knot here, I can go down deep with those and snip off any exposed leads that I don't want anymore. And so that's what I use these for. I got them fairly cheap off eBay, but they seem good quality. They will cut cords as I want them, so yeah, I'm happy with those. Then the next one that comes out of that slot as well is I've got myself some small round nose pliers, and they're just sometimes good if you've got a knot and you want to pull a cord through. Just you can dig in with the end of those like so, open them up a bit and then pull the cord through that you're trying to pull through. So that's those, my round nose pliers, just small. Next one is I've got a small wooden fid. This one too, this fid here was made by PJ, just part of the collection of fids and things that he made for me. It's a beautiful, beautiful small fid for intricate work, etc. Also, the other thing is, because it's so small, I could also, if I wanted to, go to that point, turn it into a sort of a necklace and just hang mine around my neck and show everybody, yes, I am a knotter. But that's not my way. But this is a very nice little fid that I do like to use now and again on smaller, intricate work. Very hard wood, not sure what the wood is, could be lignum vitae, but I'm not really sure about that. And then on to the next bit. When I first started, I had these two wooden fids made. I really went for this fid here. It's a nice long fid, and I believe it is green lignum vitae. I got this from a woodworking shop up the road from where I live. It's just a nice big size. However, with these two, I've never actually used them in anger that I can recall, but I do like to have them in my collection, and they get a polish now and again with some nice beeswax. So yeah, I do like them, and it makes my collection look big. So I'm proud of those two. We then come here to another fid that PJ made. This one's slightly bigger, got a little bit of damage there. You can see, I don't know if you can see that there, there's slight damage on there. So this one I quite often use for various jobs as part of the knotting process, just to pull threads through. It gets in underneath things like so, and you can pull them up, etc. So that's another one made by PJ. We come on to then the next one made by PJ, and this is my grip fid. For those of you who don't know what a grip fid is, basically it's a tube that's been shaped like this at the end here, so that when we have our cord, we can pass our cord into it like so, and then we can pull our cord through a knot, etc. So if, say for example, I've got this one here, I could pass this through the knot, pull up a cord, and this is normal standard paracord. So if I slot that in, I can lock that in place, or try and lock it again, like so, and then as I pull through, it will grip it, like the name says, a grip fid, and also on smaller stuff, like this one here, it will grip this as well. So basically just pull it through like that, and that's your grip fid. The other thing about this one as well is that when I undo it, I can take the antler horn off that I put on it, and on this end it's threaded, and so I can, if I want to, just put my paracord onto there like that, screw it down a bit, and then I've got myself a needle to pull my paracord through. So that's my grip fid as such. So just put that back on. Oh, the thread's obviously gone on that, but that's my, and I've just put that handle on. It just makes it nicer to hold. And for some reason that's not locking in place anymore. I'll have to look into that. Okay. So that's that one. Then we come on to another favourite one of mine. Another one that PJ made. He just made me a set of tools to get started with. And like I say, you don't need, you can use the end of a biro, that's providing it hasn't got ink in, because the last thing you want to do is end up with ink on your work. And the other thing is that when you're using your fids, just make sure that the metal doesn't stain or discolour the cord. So sometimes, if, say for example, if you've got a brass fid and you're working on a white cotton, sometimes the brass can rub off on the white cotton. So just make sure you're using the right fid for the job, and then it doesn't stain it at all. This one's got a lovely stainless steel shaft to it. Nice rounded point, so it doesn't damage when I'm digging into things. I can dig into that. It's not damaging as anything as it goes in, but it's managing to lift it and bring it out for me. It then goes on to a brass handle. This is just purely decoration, and then I've decorated it here like so. So that's my stainless steel and brass fid. Next thing we go on to here, I bought myself these scissors. Sometimes when you're doing rope work, it's nice to have some form of clamp, and with these scissors, at this end here there's like a locking device. I don't know what they're called. They are medical scissors as far as I know, and you can actually push them together like so. So if, say for example, I want to hold this thread here, I can clamp it like that, and that end now has locked it in place, and so I can just keep it held in place as I work with that for whatever reason. Or the other thing is, if you've got a knot like so and you want to dive in and pull a thread through, you can do that by just clamping the jaws onto the thread and pulling it through like so. So yeah, don't know what they're called, but that's a fairly useful tool that I use now and again as well. Then next tool along that I've got that I quite often use if I'm splicing etc. into a bit of rope, I use this, which is known as the Swedish Fit, and unlike a normal fid as such, so if, say for example, we get the steel one out here, you can see this one is hollowed out, and basically this will allow me to go between two cords of my rope, and then I can pass another rope through the gap that's been created on this Swedish Fit here. One thing I would recommend is that when you first get your Swedish Fit, on the edges, just run a bit of emery cloth or something just to get rid of any burrs and take away some of the sharpness of it. Because as you pass that through a piece of rope, it could actually cut it when it's brand new, because it's just got slight burrs on it and it's got occasional sharp edges. So that's the Swedish Fit that I use there. And then we go on further. We've got our smaller items. I've got a pencil, which is fairly obvious. Sometimes I need to mark things, and so my pencil will do the marking for me. There's something else in here. I haven't got a clue what it is. Oh, I see what that is. Okay. I've also got another couple of brass fits here, and these ones are basically used for paracord. And in the end here, there is a thread, and I can thread my paracord onto here, like I showed you with the grip fit itself. You really need a lighter to bring it to a point so that you can screw your paracord onto there. And so basically that's all they are. I believe they're Permalock needles is what the proper name is for them, but they've got, like I said, a screw thread running down them, and you screw your thread into there, and then it stays attached to your needle as you work your way through your work. Next one here, I've got this bone fid. I think I've used it a couple of times. I personally bought it because it was for sale on eBay. It's made of bone. I believe it's a shin bone of some animal. It's very old as well. And I found it rather pleasing, and it was just a nice small item to own, and I thought I'd use that. I then have another variation of a fid. Somebody's probably going to go out there and recognise it as not being a fid, but this one is like a pen, and comes out, and you can attach it to the end like so, like a pen top, and then you can work with it. It's probably something for makeup. I'm not sure what the tip is made of. It could be glass, or it could be a very strong plastic. And I believe it is silver as well. It is tarnishing like silver would, so I believe that's it. So anyway, that's my tool roll as such. Another important item that I have with my tool roll is my lighter. I was going to use a normal lighter just with a normal flame, but I decided to get one of these, I believe they're jet lighters as such, where when I light it, this reminds me of a film. Do you trust your lighter to light first time every time? And wasn't someone going to get their finger chopped off if they agreed to the bet? And if it lit first time every time for 10 goes or something, they won, I don't know, X amount of money, and if they lost any, they had their finger cut off. I can't remember what film that was, but it just reminded me of that. So anyway, yeah, this is my lighter. It gives out a jet flame. It's a very powerful jet flame, and I've burnt myself on a few occasions with it, but the one thing I like about it is that when it burns, it doesn't produce any soot or discoloration as such to my paracord when I'm melting it. So if, say for example, I want to melt that end there we go, melt that end, twist it in my fingers to get a point on it, ouch that's hot, and I've then got an end. My end of my rope has been sealed there. So that's that. Those are the items that I basically work with a lot of the time, or I just have for decorative reasons, because I just love a bit of decoration. But I enjoy decorative rope work, and so I always figure that if I'm doing decorative rope work, it's nice to have decorative tools as well to work with. What I'll do as well is I'll bring up my Ditty bag, my large Ditty bag. Here we go. I have a very large Ditty bag, like so. On my Ditty bag I've got other bags attached to it, and what I'll do is I'll dive into this and just see what's there. Chopping board, always a useful item. This chopping board, just a nice small chopping board. Use it for cutting my cords, etc. It's even got some glue splattered on it. Sometimes I use a bit of glue just to seal the ends of non-synthetic ropes, and let's see what else I've got in my bags here. I've got string that you wouldn't believe. I've got, oh, what's this tool? There we go. This tool here. Ah, yes. When I was making my leather ditty bag, I used this tool here. When you push down hard on it, it will actually mark your leather for you, so you can draw straight lines, and it will mark little holes all the way along to show you where to put your next stitch. It was just a nice way of creating straight lines on my leather ditty bag, which I'll do another video on my ditty bags at a later date, but this tool here was used to create straight lines, etc. What else we got in here? I've got a screwdriver, an electrical screwdriver for some strange reason, and what else is there? Oh, I've got another one of those sharp knives there with a blade inserted into it. I'm not sure how often I've used that as such. So that's one bag emptied that's hanging on the side of my ditty bag. Also, you can see on my ditty bag here, I hang some of my work from it. Some of my earlier works, the good, the bad and the ugly, they all hang on here. Monkey's fist here, a decorative key ring as such, a bit of rope work there, just not finished, but it's hung on my ditty bag. Here I've actually tied it with bosun's call knot or the lanyard knot, created a loop at the end so that I can hang my things from my ditty bag, etc. Here is a tarred rope. This is tarred cord, and I've just made a fender on there. Here's the slide for my ditty bag, and here's the handle. As you can see, fairly decorative work that I've done here. Right, I've got another little bag here on my ditty bag, and what I'll do is, got some glue, and then in there, oh, I've got a load of wooden toggles. I have got no idea why I've got a load of wooden toggles, other than I thought they might be a good idea to purchase them once, and they've been in there, 3 or 4 years that I know of. Okay, into the ditty bag itself, and let's see what we come out with. Okay, oh, and like magic, we have another ditty bag here. This is basically my ditty bag which contains stuff for net making, etc. This one was made out of, it's quite horrible cord. It's rather furry. One of the first ditty bags. I didn't actually make the ditty bag itself, but I did the actual cordage on it, and as an experiment for my pull, to pull it down, I decided to use the top of a beer bottle, and it was just something else to learn how to cut the top of a beer bottle. So I did a search on YouTube. It showed me how to do it, and yes, whatever method I used, it did work, and so I used that as my locking device for my ditty bag. Once again, this ditty bag here has got the lanyard knots on it, or the bosun's call knots. They're doubled up, and they've got a loop on the end should I wish to hang things from it. This one's got pockets in the sides, and I don't think there's anything in those pockets in the side. Oh, there's a hard eye. I think they're called hard eyes. I'm sure somebody else will tell me there's something else. I think a hard eye is a round one, but I'm not sure what that's called. But anyway, I use this sort of thing for making my bell ropes. As you can tell, I'm not very nautically minded as such. And then, first thing to come out of here is one of many netting needles. And as you can see, this one's already loaded with string, and the whole idea of this is that you load it with your string. So basically, to load it with string, you wrap your string so it goes round, over that centre needle, down, turn it over, round, over that centre needle, turn it over, and so forth, over that central needle. And then as you're making your netting, you can pass this through the netting to tie your knots, etc. and it's a way of keeping your needle and thread all together without ending up with a massive heap of knots because it's got all tangled on the floor or something. So that's one of my netting needles. This one here is just a decorative pot that I made, which is empty at the moment, but you'll find that as you do stuff, you'll collect pots and containers, etc., and decide to use them for certain things or not use them like I've done and just have it empty. Here's another netting needle I've got. This one's a smaller diameter, and this one has got some cordage on that I used for making a purse net. I decided to have a go at making purse nets. I'll do a video later on also on how to make a purse net using the netting needles, etc. But that's why this one is loaded with this particular colour green. Here, more netting needles, another container that I've got that I've dressed with Turk's heads of different styles, and in here I've basically got a selection of sailmakers needles, etc. Okay, so that's what I've got in there. Digging a little deeper, oh, here we go, another container. It's got something in. So long since I used it. Oh, it's got some brass eyes in there. Brass eyes that I used on one of my Ditty bags. So there we go. Got a store of brass eyes in there. And what else is in there? Some other bits that aren't really of interest. Here's another netting needle, and as you can see, it's a very narrow one for smaller work as such. What else? Oh, no, here's another one that I made that's empty. No, I think that's it. And so that's another Ditty bag as such, with some of my gear in. So as you can see, yes, I've got a lot of junk. I mean, to be honest, if push comes to shove, all you need is a knife and then something else to poke. Even a screwdriver will make a fit. You do not need any special tools as such to tie a knot other than, say, your hands. And so basically, with your hands, you can produce a knot. That's all, you know. So yeah, it's not. Some of them are really nice to have. Some people don't even like fancy tools, etc. I personally like a fancy tool simply for the fact is, I feel good. I feel good. So yeah, that's the basic reasons there. Okay, so that is just some of the tools that I use. Every now and again you're doing a job and you find yourself running around the house looking for something, and something else is then incorporated into your toolbox as such that you needed for that particular day, and then it's never used again, but it ends up in amongst your tool selection. For example, this here, yeah, beautiful tool, brass head with, oh, they're sharp spikes on the end, etc. But I used it once when making my leather Ditty bag, and it's never been used again since. But it was cheap enough, that's the point. I mean, just go onto eBay, look for these things, I can't even remember what it's called, but sometimes you will find things that are so cheap, it's just worth getting. So, that is basically what I carry in my Ditty bags and my tool selection. Okay.